Hi and welcome back to the course. So in the last video we real quick just had a look at how we could use PyMongo and interact with MongoDB through Python. In this video we're going to simplify just these two lines ever so slightly in order to introduce another concept that is extremely important in Python and is used everywhere that you see a Python program. And this concept is called list comprehension. And list comprehension is something that Python has that many other languages, or in fact, no other language that I can speak fluently or can write fluently does. So if you know Java or Ruby or PHP or any of those languages, they do not have list comprehension, at least not at this time. And this is something that Python does and is actually so cool the way that Python does it. So we're going to simplify this for one simple reason. When you do a for loop, it is because you want to do something with each of the elements of the list that you're iterating over. So here we would want to, for example, print out each of the students or get the mark of each of the students and then get an average or something like that. So in this instance, for what we want to do, it makes sense to do a for loop because we want to go through each of the students and print them out. In other cases, however, what we would want to do is for the students variable to contain a list of the students as opposed to a MongoDB, a PyMongo cursor object. So how would we first assign this to the students variable and then assign to the students variable the list of students inside that cursor? So what we would have to do is have something like student list is empty, and then for each of the students in students, say student list dot append and then student. So we could do this, and then what this would do, this append method does, is gets this list up here and then adds something to it. So each of the students in our students collection would be going into the student list, and then we would end up with student list being our list of students. So we could do that, but now we need a few lines and we end up with two variables. One of them is our cursor object and the other one is our list object. So say we didn't want to do that. Say we wanted to say that our students are the students in this collection. So what we could do is say put this collection.find inside a pair of square brackets, and then we would say the contents of this students list is each of the students for student in students, but this students really is collection.find. So what we're saying here is for each of the elements in this collection.find, which we are calling student, simply put all of it inside this new list. And what this does is, if we print students, is it puts all the students inside a list, like so. However, we could also say student mark, and then when printing that out, we would get out the 99 only, which is the mark. So what this does is, for each of the students in this collection.find, get the mark and put it inside this list. So get the student mark for each of the students in here. Notice that we can call this student whatever we want. It doesn't have to be a student. This ASDFG is simply the name we're giving to each of the elements as we iterate this collection.find method call. In order to rename the variables here, I'm pressing Shift function 6, Shift F6, and that is called refactoring the variable name, and you can do that, and then you can rename your variables like so. So we're calling a student simply for readability purposes, and what we're doing is we're going over the collections, we're calling each of the elements student, and then we're getting the student mark, and all of those student marks, we're putting them inside a list. And this is called list comprehension. We can also say student mark for student in collection defined if student mark is 100.0. So in this case, our list will end up empty because my mark was 99.0 and not 100.0. If we change it to 99.0, then the list once again has a value. So we can do a lot of things here in this list comprehension, and now we're no longer needing these two variables and this for loop. We can simply do it all here quite succinctly in one line, quite readable, very Pythonic way of doing it, and you will no doubt find this throughout your reading and your studying as you figure out and learn more about Python, and indeed as you use Python yourselves. Okay, so this was just a quick video on list comprehension, and we're going to be moving on into doing object-oriented programming in the very next video. So I'll see you there.